Welcome to Conversations. I'm Muqtadar Khan, your host. And as you can see today, I have a very distinguished guest with me, Dr. Sadek from Cairo in Egypt. He is a very prominent political sociologist, which means that he studies international relations and geopolitics, but from a sociological perspective. He is a professor at the American University in Cairo. He also writes lots of columns in the Middle Eastern media. He's also on television. And for those of you who have been watching Conversations regularly, you know that he has been on this show a number of times. So first, welcome to the show. Ahlan wa sahlan, ya akhi.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muqtada. Happy to see you always and be always in your show.
Thank you very much. I want to talk obviously about the Gulf and Iran and the US. The United States is now moving a second aircraft carrier group towards Iran. Netanyahu has visited Washington, D.C. again. I think he has visited Washington, D.C. and the White House more often than J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio. He comes so often. But from the public announcement, it shows that both Trump as well as have not yet fully agreed upon what to do about Iran. Trump is hoping to get some kind of a deal on the nuclear. So we will talk about it. But first, I want to get your impression about these protests in Iran and the efforts by the Americans and the Israelis, and also many disenchanted Iranians to try and topple the Iranian regime. How do you see it here? It is quite contentious, especially apparently among the diaspora. The Iranian diaspora is obviously divided on this issue. There are people like me who find it astonishing that there are people in America who want to repeat 1950, what 53 it was, when Sadek was removed and Pahlavi was installed, and they want to do it all over again. So let's start with that. What is your take essentially on what happened in Iran, and how does the Arab world see it really?
As you know, Iran since the revolution in 1979 had seen similar protests. We had the Green Revolution 2009, the Mahsa Amini early 22. This one may be more violent, but it also lacked a lot of things, like the previous uprisings. First, they had no leadership, they had no commanders, they did not do what happened in Serbia, besieging the seat of government, the Shura Council, the headquarters of the Supreme Guide. It was just a demonstration and shouting here and there, but not enough really to topple the regime. And there was also this problem is, who is the alternative? Whom do you want? Some raise the pictures of Rida Pahlavi, who is in exile, and he may be popular with some of the Iranian diaspora, but not inside, not that much to be able really to replace the regime. Also, the regime in Iran is well established, consolidated, very strong. It is ideological. It had been there for over 47 years, something like that. It's really well established. It's not that easy that you can topple it. And even with all this demonstration that was backed by the outside, especially in the international media, social media, they were not able really to convince the people that this is genuine. Of course, a lot of people are resenting the economic situation, the inflation, but they felt that with Israel pushing only and the Americans, they are the only two countries that supported the uprising. The rest were watching. And so there was this feeling that this is not genuine, and it in the end it collapsed. And we had after that a demonstration of 3 million people supporting the regime. So the situation was not ripe enough really to topple the regime, nor the tactics used by the protesters were enough to encircle the regime and the headquarters and topple them. That was not the case from the beginning. And so it just failed. It was another example of a failed attempt It was not made by the American or the Mossad. It was genuine, but the others jumped on this event, hoping that it leads to something. But they should have guided them to more strategic attacks and encirclement. Otherwise, it was bound to fail, like previous uprisings.
I mean, is there a moral responsibility for somebody like Donald Trump and others who encouraged these people to go out there and protest and then die in large numbers without actually providing any concrete support? And if Trump attacks Iran now, the question then arises, why didn't he do that while the protests were going on, right? So how is this seen in the region? I mean, do the Arabs realize that protests instigated or encouraged were not supported?
You see, the whole area since the Arab Spring is now ruled by a counter-revolution, and so they will not support people in the street toppling the government. This is totally against the political culture of the area these days. So there was no support of them. There was no support of Mahsa Amini, because in Iran they impose shadur, the veil, by law and by morality police. In the rest of the Arab world, it is imposed by social pressure. And only a few countries that really impose it by law. Maybe the Sudanese and the previous Sudanese government used to do that. Afghanistan, but the rest no. So of course the revolution or a street protest that would topple the regime is out of the question for many government in the Middle East. So they despite the fact that there is no love lost with Tehran mullah, but they just don't want any toppling in this way. I felt this is dangerous for them, and a president they don't want to emulate. Remember, the 1979 Iranian Revolution had an impact on the area. The revolution led to besieging of the Mecca, the Holy Mosque in Mecca, the assassination of Sadek in 1981, the rise of the Islamists in the area. They just copied from the Iran. The example, for example, they were against, for example, trade unions and the syndicate. They just felt that these are common structures. But the brother of Hassan al-Banna, the Muslim Brotherhood leader, wrote a book and said that if the Iranians were able to mobilize the workers in the oil field and in Abadan and were able to topple the regime, so why don't we also penetrate all the trade unions and the professional unions? And so that was the impact of the Iranian revolution. And ever since that time, there was this problem in Egypt that Islamists are dominating trade union and professional unions. So they were not supporting what is happening. Yes, they don't like the regime, but they don't also like the way it will be put down or bringing down this regime in this way. They were not supporting that.
Yeah, I remember those days in the 1990s when American scholars used to harp on the fact that the Islamists basically control the civil society in the Arab world. And so there is no civil society outside Muslim Brotherhood and the Islamists. But I want to ask, since we haven't had a chat in a long time, I want to ask you how you think that the balance of power and geopolitics has changed in the region since the war has not fully ended. Israel is killing Gazans every day nearly still. But since its intensity has declined and many people believe that there is a ceasefire there, these 2 years of war instigated by the terrorist attacks on Israel on October 7th by Hamas, how has it changed, in your view, the geopolitical balance and dynamics in the region?
There is, of course, if you remember, the Prime Minister of Israel said that we are going to have a new Middle East. And this new Middle East, supported by the Americans, is the Abrahamite Accords. But nobody is joining because of what happened in Gaza is, making a lot of leaders are not willing to join.
Saeed, there are 2 genocides taking place in the world today, and the perpetrators both are members of the Abraham Accords.
Yes, 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 yes. Sudan is one, and you have also the
Gaza.
Gaza, of course. And there was this feeling that Israel wants to dominate the area, despite the fact that demographically and culturally they don't have this domination. I mean, you can talk about Turkey because of religion, history, and a lot of stuff, and more accepted. But Israel is difficult really to accept this. But it pushed a lot of informal alliances to emerge in the area. Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Egypt. This is one Islamic NATO alliance emerging, but it is informal. And you have the other one, India, Emirates, and Israel, another counter alliance.
With Greece.
Greece is far away. But, yeah, you can add if you like, but it's a little bit far away from them. But this is the one that is emerging. And so this is the situation. Most of the areas today just feel that they don't want to live under the Israeli age, under Israeli umbrella. And they looked at Iran as a military counterbalance with Israel. Now, when Iran lost its tools in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and maybe also in Yemen, they just felt that this will be paving the way for more Israeli hegemony in the area. And that's why each one began to look for new alliances, new resources, and so this is the situation. They also understand that American and Israeli targeting Iran has two objectives. For Israel, they want Israel to achieve its goal of dominating the Middle East. Okay. For the Americans, the deep state in America and the China containment policy wants to dominate the oil resources because 20 to 40% of the oil in China comes from Iran. It's a lot of stuff, even more than that. And they just know that after Venezuela, and now most of the Gulf state is under American sphere of influence. If they get also Iran, China will be totally contained. And so this is very important for the Americans that they not necessarily change the regime, but change the policy. I mean, make the policy more toward the West, more accepting the Israelis and the Americans, which is very difficult, really, that you can achieve something like that. But this is the two objectives remain. Israel dominate the Middle East, and America control the oil so that China is more contained and controlled.
You know, one of the reasons why many countries were thinking of joining the Abraham Accords partly was the threat that at least the Arab countries faced from Iran, the constant demonization of Iran, especially in Arab countries, and and this perception that Iran is trying to dominate the region made a lot of people nervous, and so they started, even Saudi Arabia, which did not join the Abraham Accords, formally continued to flirt with it. MBS talked about it before 2023, that they were just so close. You remember his famous Fox News interview. So it was the threat of Iran which was pushing these countries closer towards accepting the US-Israeli agenda of Abrahamic Accords to normalize relations with Israel without solving the Palestinian problem. But one of the interesting things that I think has happened is by weakening Iran, the US has given countries like Saudi Arabia a strategic autonomy. Now that they are not frightened of a strong and aggressive Iran and are facing a much weaker and restrained Iran, it gives them options other than the Abraham Accords. Do you think that is something that people in the region also recognize and see?
They, there were many Arab public opinion survey, and they all agree that the number one enemy in the Middle East is Israel. Iran comes the third.
Third? Who's the second?
I think sometimes they talk about Turkey, because the new Ottomans policy expansion, and Turkey has more influence than Iran or Israel. I mean, this used to be dominating the area. Look at a Turkish soap opera, Arab visit to Turkey, tourism, business. No, it has more influence than those two outside are difficult. Of course, if Iran is weakened, it will have a big trouble in the area. If it weakens, it depends how you are going to weaken. If there is a big strike and Iran is really defeated, it can produce refugees, especially Azeri who speak Turkish. They go to Turkey, they flood Turkey, and Turkey is very alarmed about that because they had suffered from what happened in Syria.
Mhm.
They can also export terrorism, arms smuggling. If the Iranians block the Strait of Hormuz, global economic disaster, the oil prices will jump initially to $120, and then if the conflict is prolonged, because nobody guarantees how long it can last, it can be a global disaster, not only internationally but also regionally. The Gulf state, the ruling elites in the Gulf live on development, money, finances, business. They don't want to have a destruction of the infrastructure. Look at the home. A lot of countries are sending the workers in the Gulf, like India, for example, and they are sending important workers remittances to Syria, to Egypt, to Sudan, to the whole. If there is disruption of oil exports, it's a big disaster globally. The policy of Iran is hedgehog. We are a hedgehog. If the American fox and the Israeli wolf attack us, you will be getting thorns. We will cause a disaster all over the world. So don't attack us. This is the main defense strategy.
So it is very clear that Donald Trump is trying to resist the pressure from Netanyahu, and it was quite obvious from Netanyahu's last visit, where he seemed quite unhappy that Trump had not made up his mind and is still hoping to get a nuclear deal. Basically, Trump, I think, is using pressure with the military presence to make Iran give him something, I think, that he can tell the public that, look, I won another medal, in Iran this time. So I think that is what Trump is looking for. But it can be very dangerous because Israel could start this war. If Israel makes a strike with American troops in that area and then Iran responds, then, in America these days, there's only one thing that America cares for, whether it is at home, in democracy, human rights, etc. It's only Israel. It's only Israel that matters these days in the United States. And so if Israel starts the war, America will have absolutely no choice but to join that war to protect Iran, in fact, to protect Israel. In fact, the only time the Arabs have got into this war in the last 2 years was to defend Israel. If you remember, the Jordanian Air Force and other Arabs were defending Israel from Iranian attacks. So is there a lot of pressure from the Arab countries on the United States? We don't see that here. Is it happening behind the scenes? And what are they telling to their own public, and what are they trying to tell to Washington on how to proceed with this Iran situation?
There are back channels going on. The Gulf states, Turkey, Egypt, and even Pakistan, they have putting a lot of pressure because they all fear the consequences. Again, as I mentioned, there is no love lost with the rulers of Iran, but the collapse of the regime will have an impact on them. It is like a 10-story building, and you have the neighbor on the 5th floor is troublemaker, and somebody from outside said, I come and I shoot him with a cannon. Everybody is afraid because it will affect them all. So this is what is happening. So they have been doing a lot of back channel, and I think one of the reasons that Trump did not make any big quick strike is that he was under pressure from Turkey, from the Saudis and others were warning that this is dangerous. And so this is one factor. I think also domestically, there is midterm election coming. And not everybody, not all Republicans are MAGA. They are not happy with any war again. I mean, you'll be dragging them into unknown war. You don't know what is the end. You don't what is the day after. Okay, you toppled Ayatollah Khamenei. The guy is 86 years old and he's sick, and maybe if you touch him, he dies and he becomes a hero. And he is also a religious leader, not only a political leader. He would cause a lot of trouble. His death, this is a country of the martyrs, and martyrdom, Hussein and others. This is really dangerous. So the Israelis can push, but Trump again will stick to his policy of diplomacy and putting more pressure, sending a second carrier. Again, this is all for the putting the military pressure, military muscles. Remember, the admiral, the sent command commander attended the meeting in Muscat. Again, just to remind the Iranians that we still have the stick. But I don't think that if Israel starts something like that, and we don't have also a hot line to prevent an accidental war, Iran will not see that this is only Israel. It would see that this has been coordinated with the Americans, and they may start a bigger war. And again, the whole area would fall into this problem. Remember that there is nobody who wants a war with Iran except Israel. The rest of the area are not happy with any war with Iran, despite the fact that they don't like them. But again, the war is dangerous to them.
Do you think that Russia, China, India will not say anything? India has now become more like a lackey of the Israelis. But even though its interests are also quite hurt, it can't use the Chabahar port in which it invested millions of dollars for the last 4 or 5 years. But do you think that the Chinese and the Russians will play any role at all if the United States were to move aggressively, or will they just condemn verbally and do nothing?
Russia is bogged down with NATO in Ukraine, so they will not do anything except intelligence and some weapons. China doesn't send any soldiers, and the Iranians do not need any soldiers. They have enough soldiers. They need intelligence and they need technology, and I think the Chinese are helping them with a lot of technology. And the way that they blocked Elon Musk Starlink showed that Chinese technology was helping in that. China would lose, of course, if Iran is gone, then they will be in trouble. I mean, this is a success of the American-China containment policy. So they will support them technologically and weapons. That's it. I don't see that they will get anything further than that. And they know, I'm sure that they know that Iran can give the attackers a very hard time. It's not going to be easy. Iran is not Venezuela. So if Trump thought that Ayatollah Khamenei is Maduro, I think he's reading wrong. This is wrong reading. This is a different country. I mean, Venezuela is part of the American geopolitics. Iran is a different geopolitics and different country. This is a country bigger than the size of Iraq and Afghanistan. And so if you want to occupy it, I mean, when the American occupied Iraq and Afghanistan, in each case, the American troops reached 200,000. To occupy Iran, you need 1 million soldiers, and we don't have that in the neighborhood. Even all those troops that they are sending, these are only for a big, strong strike. That's it. But to occupy Iran, a country like Iran, is impossible. Remember also the political culture on Iran after the coup in 1953. Again, this Mohammad Mossadegh made a lot of the Iranian resent American intervention, British intervention, the SAVAK, the CIA, and all that happened. And so when they got rid of the Shah and the SAVAK, they always remembered what the Americans did in 1953. So they will do the same, and it will push for the Iranians. They will, rally around the flag. This is foreign intervention, foreign interference, and we don't see in history countries welcoming foreign invasion, despite the fact that they may hate the local regime. So I don't think that this is going to happen, that people would welcome the American invasion. This is not the liberation of France from Hitler.
Where do you see Egypt's role in all of this? Has Egypt's significance in the Middle East diminished? Or is Egypt still a serious player? Are Americans listening to Egypt on this particular issue? Because one of the things that is going on in the chatter is that when Pakistani General Asim Munir met with Trump, he didn't talk to him about India, but he talked to him about Iran and essentially advised him against trying to push for a regime change for all the reasons that you described. But we haven't seen a Sisi-Trump meeting in a while so far. And do you think that Egypt's influence is declining with the rise of Israel and Turkey in the Arab world?
The immediate neighbors of Iran are the first one to be concerned because it will affect them directly. Egypt will be affected indirectly if the workers' remittance, Egyptian workers' remittances, number one source for foreign income in Egypt, about $39 billion a year, bigger than the Suez Canal, which is now down because of the Houthiyun in Yemen, maybe 4 to 5 billion. It used to be 10 billion. Tourism at 12 to 15 billion. So it will be affected if there is war in Iran. We have good relations with the president and the leaders of Iran. They have tried to intervene. And there was also channel talking to the Americans regarding the situation. There was a lot of coordination between the Gulf state, Turkey, and Egypt regarding this issue. Remember, there was an agreement that the first meeting would take place in Turkey. All the foreign ministers of the region, including Egypt, and would attend. But the Iranians wanted to have it bilateral only. They don't want to have a multilateral meeting. So it moved to Muscat in the Sultanate of Oman. So they are active, but not necessarily, it is in the open and not that influential these days. Egypt foreign policy now concentrates on dealing with the debt, attracting more money for investment. That is it. But they are beginning to be active because of Sudan. They are beginning to be active in a lot of places to help, but it is still not that big. They have a lot of concern and issues attracting them, like the GERD in Ethiopia, the dam, and they think that America would help, but nobody is sure how they will help in this issue.
What can Iran offer? The demands that Israel is making is that it end its whatever little program is there still ongoing in terms of enrichment. There are 400 kilos of enriched uranium at about 60%, and they want that handed over to somebody. But the real thing that Israel really wants is some kind of a cap or end to the Iranian ballistic missile production range. They want to limit the range of Iranian missiles to just 300 kilometers. So there is all of this talk and end of Iran's financial support to, Hamas, Hezbollah, and other militant groups in the region. These are the four demands that the Israelis want. Otherwise, they want war because everybody feels that Iran has never been as weak as it is at the moment. Right now, the regime is very weak, and so maybe a lot more, concessions can be extracted. How do you think Iran is going to, what concessions do you think can Iran really make?
Iran can make some concessions, but because they will not affect them much. The nuclear program, for example, they can agree on a prolonged. We go back to the GCPOA, the old agreement that Trump under Netanyahu pressure withdrew from. So they can go back to that and allow more investigation and inspection by the IAEA. This is possible. Regarding the tools in the area had already been weakened, and so I don't think that is a big deal. I mean, Hezbollah and the Houthi already are weakened, so I don't think that you will die for it. You just can play time. But regarding missiles, this has to be tied to regional security. What guarantees that if Iran reduces the production of those missiles in the next 3 or 4 years, that Israel will not attack? And why we are raising the nuclear program of Iran, which was, signed into under NPT, but everybody knows that Israel has 90 nuclear heads. How do you? What is my safety? Every country has to feel safe. I don't see that there is anything that the Americans or the Israelis are offering. So I think this issue is going to remain unresolved. The negotiation can take a long time, and maybe some talk about until March, some may talk until after the midterm, because if Trump takes the country into uncharted war, where are you going to do? What is going to happen? It can be very dangerous. Yes, Iran is weak, but I don't think they have any alternative. You are pushing them into a corner, and they will fight till the end. This is a country that believes in political martyrdom. They are going to follow that Hussein. Okay, you will kill us. Okay, I'm not going to commit suicide, because if you ask him to eliminate all those programs and all those allies, what is the point of this regime? I mean, this regime was built on this. The legitimacy of this regime and its power was built on all those issues. Now you tell them, I abandon them. Remember Gaddafi in Libya? He bought the nuclear program, and then he was forced to deliver everything. Now you cannot do this with the Iranians. The Iranians have learned the lesson that this is not guaranteed. If I deliver you everything, what guarantees that you will not attack me the day after?
Yeah, I mean, the history says the Palestinians thought they got a state in 1994, and we are now nearly 30 years plus since that, and nothing has happened. I want to ask you about the role of India in the Middle East. There has been an increase in India's interest in the security issues of the region. In the past, India tried to stay out of the security issues, but Israel has become a major weapons supplier. And, like you suggested, there seems to be a partnership with UAE and Israel emerging. What role do you think India is playing in the Gulf today?
India has a lot of interest in the Middle East. I mean, they have workers, millions in the Gulf. The trade passes through the Suez Canal. They get oil from the Gulf. So all those elements are very important for the economic interests of India. They have been, as you mentioned, they are investing on over $500 million in this port in Iran that would be competing with Pakistani.
CPEC, yeah.
Yes, and so if there is a war and the destruction of Iran, I mean, this will make Pakistan stronger and than India. So India had been trying, basically it is neutral with this conflict between Iran and the US. But of course, they had a lot of security cooperation with the Mossad, and that is also alarming some Arab regimes regarding Indian workers, if they are really working for business and economy, or also cover for the Mossad. They have seen this happening in Iran. Some of the Indian workers in Iran who supplied internet cables, planted stuff for the Mossad that facilitated the targeting of Iranian leaders. And so that was taken note of. It was observed. And so there is more concern about the Indian-Israeli intelligence cooperation. And this is really an issue. But otherwise, they have been Modi had been doing well with many Arab governments, emphasizing economic relations. There is also coordination regarding Islamism. I mean, Modi and many Arab regimes, the Emirates, Egypt, and others are all united against Islamism. And so there are a lot of things in common on this issue. If there is a war happening, I don't think India is directly involved. It just will suffer the fallout of this conflict. The economic consequences, the workers' remittances, all this would be affected. If the Suez Canal remains, under half operation today, it will also affect Indian exports and imports and all that. So this is taken into consideration. But India used to have media presence. We own, this channel. I don't know, it disappeared. I don't know why. But they still have a lot of movies. Indian movies and Indian music are very popular in the area. And people like it. And every now and then we get some of the Indian superstars going to Dubai, attending film stars and attending that. So this is a soft power of India that is really popular. Other than that, I don't see that they will be directly involved in this conflict.
Are the Arabs aware of the Hindutva ideology and its influence on the Modi regime and how Islam and Muslims are demonized within India? And does that concern them that same animosity might translate into international relations also?
National interests supersede. Of course, you will find in Arab and Muslim media attacks on Modi and discrimination, racism against the Muslims in India. But regimes are adopting the same position they adopted with China, also persecuting the Chinese Muslims. Uyghur. National interest comes first. Business first, and the rest, okay, yeah, we don't like it, but this is not translated into any policy. There is
this realism is now limited only to the Arab countries. Like the Israelis will not tolerate ill treatment of Jews anywhere in the world. The Americans will not tolerate. India will not tolerate treatment of Hindu minorities like in Bangladesh, where they were treated very badly. But only the Arab countries seem to be okay with Muslim minorities being treated badly, whether it's India or China or anywhere else in the world.
They turn a blind eye. I mean, I don't see much. Even at one point when the Uyghur in China were persecuted, there was some statement in a very modest one from the Al-Azhar, which is very much controlled by it's one of the tools of the Egyptian foreign policy. But after a while, they stopped talking at all. And the same regarding India. I don't see any big announcement. Iran could have made anything, but they have business also, and they cannot quarrel with everybody. I mean, you have to be realistic. I mean, some issues, human rights especially, I think the whole world regarding human rights and foreign policy is not really a priority for them. And so if it suits them, they can say something. But if it doesn't, turn a blind eye.
I want to share with you that the Arabic translation of my book, Islam and Good Governance, was launched in Cairo last week in the Cairo Book Fair. I have not yet seen or got a copy yet, but hopefully, I hope you can grab one either from the
yes, I have seen the advertisement for that book.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward maybe to visit Egypt soon. So Saeed, thank you very much for joining conversations and sharing with us your thoughts about the evolving geopolitics. My one last comment or question for you is, how do you, if you had a chance, like you got a minute to advise Donald Trump, what recommendations would you make for Donald Trump with regards to how to deal with Iran right now?
If he wants a Nobel Peace Prize, he has to work for peace. and he can borrow from the Cold War, the hotline that can be put in Muscat, so that there is no accidental war between Iran and America. And he can also push for applying international law regarding Israel. I mean, one of the sources of the trouble in the area is Israel. Israel is causing trouble. Defending Israel endlessly. Of course, I understand the IPAC and midterm elections and the lobby and all this stuff, but he has to also, apply the MAGA principles. America first, not anything else. Iranians you can deal with, and I don't think it is difficult. You have to give them national security. They have to feel that they are not going to be attacked by sending all those troops. You are telling them that first you are exaggerating them. Secondly, if you don't do anything, the regime, as the Saudi foreign minister said, that it will make the regime stronger, because it means they were able to stand against this big armada, and force them to leave without achieving their declared goals. So that can also be not a good message for the Iranian people. Evolution in Iran will definitely make a lot of change, especially after this guy Ayatollah Khamenei. The regime of the revolution will change to something else. So don't push, because when you push, you get the opposite direction. Because immediately people think, those are elements. I mean, when you have burned the Reda Pahlavi, when you put him that Israel and America supported, do you think that they don't see the parallel with what happened to Muhammad Sadek?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, and hope to see you soon on the show again, Saeed.
Get well.
I will. I'm getting better, but inshallah.
Happy to see you.
So